Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we have got a fairly cold weekend incoming. Temperatures do look reasonably cool on Saturday, but they do look very cold on Sunday as we see another pulse of Arctic air moving in. Many areas could wake up to temperatures down towards 1 or 2 degrees, and for northern areas looking widely below freezing on Sunday morning. And by the afternoon, even areas in southern England might struggle to get above the 8 or 9 degree mark. However, as we head into next week, we will be losing those northerly winds, and the wind will veer more to a south to southwesterly. Now that is positive in terms of giving very warm temperatures. It does look like very, very mild air masses for the time of year will be moving in. Could even see 20 degrees in isolation somewhere next week. But coming in from the south to southwest, the air masses are more humid, and it is being driven by a stronger jet stream with low pressure squeezing in from the west. And what that means is it is going to be very unsettled. We could see lots of heavy rain, maybe more thunderstorms, and just generally pretty horrible conditions in places. Does look like, as we head into the longer range though, we are going to see sort of a classic autumnal pattern setting up. High pressure to our east and our south, low pressure to the north and the west, strong west to southwesterly winds, oscillating between cold and mild air masses, dry and wet conditions as well. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see for many areas it is still dry this evening. I'm calling this around 7:30. But you can see rain is starting to push in for parts of Scotland. Now, what we're seeing here is a small wedge of milder air across Scotland, which is producing this precipitation, producing a weak weather front, a weak area of lower pressure. Behind it, it's very cold. Ahead of it, it's very cold. So for much of England and Wales, it's actually colder than it is in Scotland in terms of the actual upper air temperatures. This milder wedge will move through on Saturday, and that's why Saturday is going to be less cold, and it most likely will have a bit of rain around for many and just generally thicker cloud. For Sunday, looks drier, but as I said, very cold once again. Do you put on the temperatures this evening? You can see that in Scotland, apart from the Highlands, it's actually much milder. Areas further southwards are similar, if not a little bit cooler, with those colder upper air temperatures still holding on. Could see isolated frost in places, but the air mass is starting to lose some of its intensity in terms of that coldness, so might not quite get below freezing this evening. But early this morning, through Thursday night, we did see frost in quite a few spots, especially rural areas. Now, if you go over to the latest UKV and start on the precipitation, you can see over the coming hours we do start to see that rain heading southwards, and it gets combined with some more areas of rain developing through Saturday morning into the afternoon across much of England and Wales as well. Now, it doesn't look too heavy. It is a very weak weather front and weak area of lower pressure. So we're not going to see too much. Could be a few heavier pulses in there inevitably, but most will just see on and off rain and generally some thicker cloud. But as we head into Saturday evening, it should hopefully all clear, and then we unlock the doors to a stronger northerly wind, and some very cold air arrives for Sunday morning. You can see wintry showers coming in for northern Scotland, even areas towards sort of moderate hills could even see a brief covering there into Sunday morning. But for most, it's just a very dry and cold morning. As we get into the afternoon, it will stay cold, but we will start to see cloud building in from the west as we start to see a transition back to milder air. So it is a very brief shot, 24-hour shot there of colder air. For into Monday, it does turn milder, but still cold through much of Sunday. As we head into Monday, we start to see the wind veering up to more of a south to southwesterly. Initially, we see a bit of high pressure building in, so it's actually pretty dry through Monday. But as we head into Tuesday, we start to get that low pressure making more in advance off the Atlantic. We keep that southerly flow, but we start to see lots of heavy, thundery rain moving up from the south, and it looks pretty horrible indeed. Look at all those batches of orange and yellow showing really quite heavy precipitation moving in, and it does not look great at all. I must emphasise that. Again, very subtle shifts in the high pressure low pressure balance could move this westwards or eastwards, but from the looks of the latest runs, this is looking like the most likely scenario where we are going to be very mild. Upper air temperatures are very warm, but it just fuels the precipitation with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. You see that on the mean sea level pressure, high pressure to our east, low pressure to our west, squeezing up a southerly wind, and it's within this we see warm air combining with some instability. and that's where we see these heavy thundery showers, longer bands of rain as well. And you can see it is this warm, humid air that is fueling it, and that's why it could be pretty lively in places. Those upper air temperatures are upper air temperatures we would generally see more in summer months, not exclusively, but these are sort of average or slightly above average temperatures in the summer months. So it just shows you that there is going to be a lot of energy around, so wouldn't be surprised to see perhaps even some rain warnings next week, thunderstorm warnings even, potentially. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see it is pretty cold tonight, but nowhere near as cold as it was through Thursday night, and that is because we have got that cloud moving in, and we've got some slightly milder air moving southwards as well. Into Saturday, it's going to be milder than it's been recently, but you can see about maybe 13, 14 degrees with rain around. For Scotland, it's starting to turn colder as that cold air starts to move back in. And you can see it's a very cold night as we head into Sunday. Much of Northern England and Scotland, Northern Ireland, freezing or below freezing. And then lots of England and Wales there, 3, 4, 5 degrees. And again, rural areas will be colder than that. Into Sunday afternoon, doesn't get much higher than mid to high single digits. 7, 8 degrees for most is the top temperature, but it does slowly turn milder into Monday. Still a chilly night, but maybe not quite as much of a frost into Monday with thicker cloud. And then into Monday afternoon, temperatures recovering, maybe single digits in some areas, but most areas getting back into the double digits, maybe 15 or 16 in the southwest. And you see by Tuesday, even higher in a few places, 17, 18, but of course accompanied by that increasing amount of rain. And by Wednesday, we still have lots of heavy rain around, thunderstorms, perhaps thick cloud, but we're getting widespread 17 or 18 degrees, just showing you the power of this mild air mass. And that's why if we did see some dry conditions, some sunshine, couldn't rule out a 20 degree. You can see that across the near continent, 22, 23 degrees seen in parts of northern France. So we could see something like that perhaps if we saw something drier. But I must say, the latest outlook, it does look like it's going to be very unsettled next week. So any drier interludes might be few and far between. Now, if you look at the longer range now, you can see northerly winds starting to push in at the moment, and it is looking pretty cold over the coming days. Eventually, we see that west to southwesterly wind return, and you can see it's briefly dry for Monday, Tuesday with higher pressure, but eventually low pressure moves in for Tuesday, Wednesday, and it turns it unsettled, but very mild with a southerly flow. Now, that pattern continues for much of next week, maybe some more higher pressure building in, and that's where we could get to 20 degrees. But again, I wouldn't sort of be banking on that, as again, it all depends on shower and thunderstorm activity. Towards the end of next week, though, we do unlock the door to westerly flow, and it is a pretty flat west to southwesterly flow, a classic autumnal pattern. Very strong tropospheric polar vortex up towards Greenland, and it really is powering the jet stream, and we're oscillating between high pressure and low pressure, colder and milder air masses. So we'll see the full shebang there as we head towards Halloween. Now, I don't want to sort of preemptively say what we're going to see in Halloween because it is still 2-3 weeks away. But from the looks of this, it is looking really quite mild to end October. Just uncertain whether we're going to see this high pressure building in off Europe, or we're going to see this big Atlantic flow with these storm systems starting to develop out towards the south of Greenland. You can see why they're occurring. Very mild mid-Atlantic air combining with the beginnings of very cold air developing across parts of Greenland. And yeah, that combination really fuels storms this time of year. Could be just general low pressure systems, or we could even be seeing named storms. We'll have to wait and see. But for example, this system here has got almost a 20 to 25 degree temperature gradient from its northern edge to its southern edge. And if we look at the winds, you see very strong indeed and a large wind field around it. So again, if we saw a system like that, things could get very interesting to end October, but all dependent on the European high. How much control does that exert? If you look at the GEM now, again, northerly winds starting to push in, a westerly flow arriving as we head into next week, but we do see that southerly flow pushing in, very mild but unsettled. High pressure does build in for the end of the week, but doesn't last too long. We do start to see more westerly flows pushing in. Now, I will say high pressure does have a bit more of an exertion here, especially towards day 10. It does look pretty strong across Europe, not completely dominant. We're still seeing these lows trying to jump in off the Atlantic, but it does look very mild indeed, and those upper air temperatures are 10 to 12 degrees above average, only just to our south across parts of France. So again, I wouldn't even rule out temperatures jumping up again, maybe even towards 20 degrees come the last 10 days or so of October, which would be pretty incredible. Would be talking about sort of Indian summer patterns if that did occur. But still a good few weeks away, just hints at this stage, but yeah, could be seeing some very warm conditions potentially. Just again, will depend on precipitation. And then finally, if we look at the latest ECMWF, it is only just coming out, so it can only get out to 216 hours. But to be honest, 240 hours, it is pretty uncertain. You can see at the moment, westerly flow starting to push in into next week. See that southerly flow with high pressure to our east, low pressure to our west. Eventually low pressure breaks through, and all the way to day 9 here, kind of the opposite to the GM. Very similar with the high pressure to our east and south, low pressure to the north and west, but the low pressure is taking more of a dominancy here with more of a northwesterly flow than a southeasterly flow. And what that means is it'll be more unsettled, and it would also be turning potentially a bit cooler. Yes, a milder sector at this exact point is pushing in, but give it 12 hours, we would see some of this colder North Atlantic air, polar maritime air, starting to move in. So very similar, but very subtle differences. Could be the difference between 20 degrees and some sunshine, and maybe 12 degrees and heavy, widespread rain and strong winds. So lots to play for as we head into next week, but the one thing that is starting to jump out to me is it is looking like a classic autumnal pattern as we head into the second half of October. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you can see it is cold over the next couple of days, but jumping well above average into next week, but increased precipitation, so unsettled and mild. And then into the subsequent weeks, since the final 10, 12 days or so of October, it is generally mild, temperatures average to slightly above average, and there is pretty high precipitation around as well. So yeah, doesn't look ideal if you have got any plans. But of course, it is October. What can we expect? We are heading into the depths now of autumn. We are going to see unsettled conditions. We are going to see rain. We are going to see wind, and we are going to see generally cool conditions. So we can't be surprised to be seeing this sort of pattern. But we have had very up and down conditions through September and the start of October. And we're finally going to see that typical autumnal pattern instead of what we've seen the last few weeks. It's kind of oscillating between winter, summer, a little bit of autumn, a bit of a mix of all. Does look like we're going to go full-blown autumn potentially as we head into the second half of October. Still, things could change. We could even see a bit of summer if we saw something a bit drier build in. But at the moment, no massive signal for that other than a few runs showing those temperatures getting much higher. And then if we just compare to the ECMWF, you can see it is broadly very similar. High precipitation into next week, very mild conditions, 5, 6, 7 degrees above average, and staying above average into the final 10 days or so of October. And yeah, just looks very up and down. Classic autumnal conditions, and you can see that if we look at the pressure, very up and down, especially short term to medium term, oscillating less in the longer term, but hovering around that high pressure, low pressure boundary, around that 1,010, 1,015 millibars, just showing you that we're not going to see any one dominant pattern. It is likely we're going to sit on that boundary right with the jet stream over the top of us between that high pressure, low pressure. So we could see, as I said, quite big regional splits and just high variability in general. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.